Right, hi, it's the old Duffer. We're on part 2 of resolving the old PA, Fowler PA engine. Now, I popped the exhaust valve out to start. They've got to do the inlet. The valve seat is burnt. The valve, somebody tried to grind it in and made a balls of it, but I lost, or I probably lent out my valve spring compressor for doing side valve engines that goes in there, so I had to make one up out of an old clamp that we don't use. Goes in here, gets under the spring, squeeze it, and then you can get the collets out. I probably lent it to someone many moons ago and they've never said given it back, and I've got plenty of valve spring compressors for overhead valve, overhead cam, but not solid side valve. So if I bring this up to the camera now, I don't know whether it will pick it up, but we'll give it a go. Let's see, can you focus? That can't focus. I don't know whether it will pick it up in this light, but there are pit marks, even though somebody's tried to grind it in, and it's a bit concave, it's nuts. But the upshot is there's plenty of meat left on the seat, so what we're going to do is stick this in the lathe and just tickle a little bit off, probably use a parting off tool. I do have a right-handed lathe tool for doing this, but I can't find the thing, so use the corner of a parting off tool will quite often work. But the other thing is, this is a valve seat cutter that I've modified to fit in a drill. It used to be a hand operated one, and valve seats on these old things are just 45 degrees. You often hear a lot of the engine builders going about the 3-angled valve seat and all the rest of it, which is great on a modern engine. This is 45 degrees, one angle, done. So don't get too emotional about it. All I want to do is try and cut a sort of a nice even face and get rid of all the pitting. So we'll just give it a quick go. I don't want to go mad and take loads of material off. And I've found an old mandrel guide I obviously made for something that fits this engine. I have no idea why, but I made it. But we will be cleaning this engine up, obviously. That's not come up too bad, actually. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah. Let's see where we are. I don't want to obviously make it so it falls through the hole, because that's not going to be a good day out for anybody. Well, that's not too bad. And the other thing you've got to watch out for, that there's a bit of clearance between the cam follower and the bottom of your valve to grind it in. There is a little bit there. This one's tight, the inlet, there's loads of clearance, so I have a suspicion nobody adjusted these. Whoever did the valves on this last just ground the valves in and went, there you go, and never adjusted it. And I do think it's been running with the valves open, very slightly. So the camera's not going to pick this up. I'll use my little action cam, hopefully that will, if I can find it, here we go. And you can be able to see what we're trying to achieve. Right, so if I can go, hopefully it will focus on it. That's come up reasonably well. It was quite badly pitted. So hopefully, I wonder if I can pick up the valve, I wonder if it will focus on it. It's not great, but we're going to go and set up on a lathe and see if we can clean this up so that we get a reasonable finish. Then we should be able to grind the two in. We won't need a lot with a bit of luck, and that takes all the work out of grinding. The amount of people that spend hours trying to grind these in, and they end up with weird shaped valves and stuff, and it just generally is no good, and you end up having to have the block machine and a hardened valve seat put in, which of course it costs a sodding fortune, and it's just not worth it. So let's go and set up in the machine shop, which is a bit warmer, and I'll show you, see if I can do something. Right, hopefully you'll be able to see this. Not sure how this is going to go. We'll just give it a go. I'm literally going to use the corner of the parting off tool just to tickle off that valve and square it up. So hopefully you can hear me over the lathe. don't want to take too much off, because obviously it'll pull through the hole. But right now this is about as much use as a chocolate teapot, so I know all you professional engine builders out there are going to be shouting at the screen, you don't do that. Well, the only other option I've got is to find a valve that will fit in the hole, and then modify it, which may be where we have to go with this. But again, it's all extra cost, and if you're into this kind of stuff and you're a youngster, which is why we do these videos, and you've been handy with the tools, you may be able to get yourself out of trouble without having to spend a fortune. You've got to remember, it will run. If we can seal up the exhaust valve and it opens and closes at the right time, it will run. And it's 1.5 horsepower, you know, at 700 RPM. It's not going very quickly. That looks quite good actually. Let's have a look, see what we've got. Oh, that's not bad. That doesn't look too bad at all. It's a good starting point, I think. Yeah, I might just tickle a wee bit more off there, because it's got some rather unpleasant pitting. But as I say, I don't want to go mad. Now you can get valve grinders, which this goes in as a grindstone that does this job, which obviously is the normal sort of thing, the way of doing it. I don't have one of those, so I'm using what I've got to get one out of stock. I have even been known to do it with a flat file, and it works. Still a few pits in there. Even if there are a few pits on the seat, as long as you haven't got a continuous row of pits in a line, so that you end up with effectively a slit in the valve seat where it can leak, and you'll get hot exhaust gases go down and eventually crack the valve, especially on a high compression engine. If you've got a little pit in the valve seat itself, but it's sealed either side, that'll work. And again, you've got to remember, this is a stationary engine. We're not doing stuff for Formula 1, so it doesn't really matter. So let's get this out of here and see what we've got, and then we'll go and grind it in. Now let me get this to focus a bit, but it won't. Oh, focus. Yeah, I don't know whether the camera's going to pick it up, but it's not bad. It's not bad at all. It's a hell of a lot better than it was, put it that way. So we'll go and have a look and stick it in the valve seat itself and see what we've got, and then we'll get set up out there again. But hopefully that's not going to fall down the hole. If it is, we're going to have to research a replacement valve, and it was no good anyway. So right now, it doesn't fall through the hole. Hurrah. It's probably going to have a seat quite close to the edge, but as long as we can get a sealing face, that's good enough. Now, I don't do the whole let's do it with 2 sticks like we're trying to get a fire going, can't be bothered. I usually rig up something with a drill and do it that way. It's just quicker and it's easier, and you know, And quite often I find that the rubber suckers don't stick because often the valve face itself can be quite pitted, and it's just a, you know, hopeless situation. So I generally don't bother. So we just stick that in there like that, and we get the old said battery drill with a flat battery. Let's turn it. That goes a bit slower so we don't get in there. Right. What I normally do then is just as it's spinning it, just give it a lift with a screwdriver or something, just to sort of like that. Just want to make sure I've got a bit of clearance under that cam follower, otherwise you're not going to grind the valve in. And I'm using fine grinding paste on this simply because we've got a reasonable seat and face. So hopefully it'll just want a little tickle to take any minor imperfections out, and we will end up with a usable valve seat. But this is a much faster way of doing it, sitting there. If you want to keep your hands warm, I suppose, in this cold weather, you can do it with the old sucker on the end of the stick, but I just want to get it done. Right, let's just have a quick look. I'm not going to video all of this, it's boring. But you'll get the idea, and hopefully I can demonstrate what we're trying to achieve. Oh, okay. Let's have a look. What have we got? Oh, I'm getting there. Yeah, it's going to want a bit more yet, but it's actually ended up, I don't know whether the valve is going to show up, but we've ended up with the valve seat about halfway up the face of the valve, so which I didn't expect, to be honest. I thought it'd be closer to the top. What's that? Yeah, and that's coming in all right. That's looking pretty good. I'm going to carry on with this and not video it because it's boring, and we'll come back when I've actually achieved what I'm trying to achieve. So right, what you want to try and achieve, if it's all possible, and I'm hoping the camera's going to pick it up. Let's focus. I don't know whether it will, but you want to end up with like a matte finish to the valve seat. We've got probably 2 or 3 mil right around the front edge there, and that will seal. That'd be perfect, absolutely perfect. In an ideal world, yes, it would be nice to put hard valve seats in this, but this thing's probably only worth a couple of £100 tops, all running, looking lovely. It's not worth it unless you've got some sort of sentimental connection. So I'm going to carry on and get the inlet one out and do exactly the same idea. It is so boring, I'm not going to video it, and then we'll get cleaned up and come back when I'm going to do the reassembly, and show you what a lot of fun putting collets can be back in on your own. Need to be an octopus some days, but yeah, we'll come back when we get to that point. Right. Went ahead and threw it all back together. I was struggling to get the collets in with both my hands in there. You wouldn't have seen on the camera. Waste of time. I put his hat back on because I wanted to check with no new valves leaking. They're bouncing off compression. There's a little bit of blow by from the rings, bound to be. They got a bed back into the bore, but they can just bounce it off compression. Boink. There you go. Take the starting handle off before it flies off. So we now have good compression. It wants running up now. Next job is to make some gaskets. That's the breather, and that's a one-way valve in there, a little flap. The idea is when you get the piston goes down, this lifts and allows the crankcase pressure out. When the piston goes back up, this shuts and creates negative pressure or vacuum in the crankcase, and it sucks air in through where the crank bearings are and pulls any oil back into the crank. These engines from this period don't have crankshaft seals. That's how it works. So if this doesn't seal, they tend to leak oil out the crank bearings. Well, at least you know it's been lubricated and goes everywhere. This is so distorted and covered in snot that I'm probably going to end up making a new one. They're made from, I don't know whether I'll pick that up in the camera there, that's, they're made from Mazak, magnesium alloy, monkey metal, rubbish. So I need to make, probably going to end up making one of those and transfer the elbow. It's only bolted on, need a bit of 6mm alley, I might look that up in a minute. Need to make a gasket for the timing case. What people don't realise is the gears here, the mesh of the gears from the gear that drives the magneto is calculated to a certain thickness of gasket. Now it's probably alright on this, but if you take that thickness out, whatever that was, say it's 1/2 mil, you're making the gears mesh deeper, and not only will they make horrible noise, but you can over mesh them, which will eventually cause gear failure or bearing tooth fly to bits. And being these are Mazak bearings, you can imagine what's going to happen there, can't you? So if it's got a gasket, put a gasket back. So we've got to make 4, 5 of that, 6 for the carb, 6 gaskets we've got to make, no 7 because we've got the governor housing to go on as well. So 7 paper gaskets, and I'll probably run out of dummy tank because I'm not too sure about that. I found out why somebody put the head on with instant gasket. It's had a frost repair on this corner, which is not uncommon on a lot of these old engines. Weakest part on these is this corner. It's only the water jacket, and it's been brazed back together, but they were obviously concerned it wouldn't quite be level where the head is, so it looks pretty good, to be fair. I could have taken this off of here, put it on my mill, taken all the head studs out and decked the block with no valves in it and just skimmed it all, make sure it's all flat. And then if I've made the piston slightly stand above the top of the block, I can machine the piston down. I really didn't see the point. So we'll see if it leaks when we fill it up with water. It certainly won't leak around the combustion chamber area. It might drip a bit out the block. It might not. We will see, but I'm quite pleased with that. We've got no, that's pretty good. She's got some compression now. There she goes. So that little bit of blow by might be able to hear into the crankcase. Will get better once it warms up and the rings bed back in. The bore, we'll get it on a load. It's the best way to bed them in, put them on a load. So we'll call this it for this video. Part 2, we'll go to part 3 and I'll make all the gaskets and we'll get this lob back together. And we'll get it going next time round. Get it running, that's the trick, and let it bed in on some sort of lash up type load of some description. So yeah, we'll call that it for this one. Thanks for watching everybody, and we'll see you in the next one.